How are you?
Yeah, very good, thanks. Yeah, that's yeah. So we're based in Perth, which is not on your itinerary this time around, but it's going to be a treat.
No, it's a shame that we've got some good friends that live down there in Fremantle, and so we spend a lot of time around that part of the world, going out on boats and doing all kinds of typical Aussie things. And we I love Perth. It's I think it's the Astor Theatre we normally play when we're there.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
always been a good show. I think I've seen you in Fremantle as well, at the Metro.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's a while ago though. That's
yeah.
a while ago.
Oh, I go a long way back. I mean, the Stranglers are, I guess, one of the very first bands I sort of like got to discover on my own. My After you finish listening to your dad's record collection, you tend to get to listening to your mates' dads, your mates' brothers. And I always
Yeah,
remember that my mate's brother, when he was 8 years old, had hundreds of albums, stuff like that.
yeah.
But there was one band that was just a little bit different, and that was the Stranglers. And, they had
I would
absolutely
say.
so it was wonderful, and you've been going ever since. Unlike a lot of, I guess, you sort of like punk and post-punk contemporaries who have all pretty much fallen by the wayside. What's the secret to the longevity of the band? Do you think?
Oh, do you know? I knew you were going to ask me that. Um, it's a well, I've been in the Stranglers, as you probably know, for 20, getting on nearly 23 years now. I joined in April 2000, so I can only really comment on from then really.
Well, that's still 22 years.
Yeah, it's probably the strange, not what you're expecting me to say, but we all really get on, you know. Um, there's conflict in every band to whatever degree, and there's disagreements, but it's usually musical and artistic. I mean, JJ Burnell, we talked today, called me today, and we talk at least once a week when we're not together. I mean, he lives down in the south of France, so it's we don't always get an opportunity to see each other very often. But we're getting together at the end of February to start rehearsing for some Spanish and French gigs before we come down to you guys. And we both said to each other, and we always do, how much we're looking forward to seeing each other. And I know that when we still had Jet and Dave, God rest their souls, that we were just all friends. We got on. I mean, for that length of time, 25 years that they had before I joined, um, they split. I mean, one of the things I think that a lot of people probably overlook is that they all. If you look on Stranglers records, if you look on the credit for Stranglers records, it was always four ways. They split everything evenly. There was no I wrote this so I get the lion's share kind of thing, even though it was ostensibly JJ and Hugh Cornwell that wrote all the early stuff, and myself and JJ that writes all the new stuff. So I think that's played a huge part in it. And also, we are quite different people. We don't get in each other's way very much, although JJ and I are a lot more similar in a lot of ways. And I think both of us would like to admit, we both love our motorcycles, and we both love our music and socialize. It just, it's hard. I don't know. It's just it's a chemistry that's right, and we haven't tried to mess with it too much.
Yeah, I mean, the Stranglers sort of like I've got to the stage now where you're sort of like almost a British institution, really, aren't you?
Yeah,
There's that many albums, and I think 18 at last count,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah. Well,
so many top
um,
40 singles, so many top 40 albums.
yeah,
It's a huge body of work.
yeah. It's very much as you say, almost a British institution now. I mean, that people plan their their holidays, their lives around the band. The amount of people that got married through coming and meeting at Stranglers gigs, myself and my wife included.
Yeah.
Actually, I met my wife
Oh,
at one
really?
of our gigs. My
Yeah.
wife's Scots, and we met in Edinburgh a long time ago now and got married. And it's very much we very much are woven into the, with by using a corny cliche, I guess we are woven into the fabric of British music since the mid 1970s.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably I think predominantly, to be honest with you, I think it's because of the enduring quality of the music. I mean, the music, all right, the stories of being bad lads, and there's all the legends about tying journalists up and all that crap, all the stuff that people go, oh, but at the end of the day, it's the music that endures.
Yeah.
And when you hear that music, it can take you right back to where you were, and you can marvel at how it makes you feel. I guess it's. I mean, that's
Yeah.
all. People are very good at trying to sit and analyze what makes a good record, why certain things touch you, and it's actually very simple. It's just all about how it makes you feel, you know. Which is sometimes why you find yourself annoyingly tapping your foot to a record that you can't fucking stand, because
Exactly.
it's evoked something in you. So I don't know.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, there's a few. I mean, the first album I heard with you on, I think, would have been Norfolk Coast back in 2004, which is
Yep.
still one of my favorites. So it's also like a lot of bands you have to reach back right to the start of the catalog, and what they've done more recently is a little more irrelevant. But I find that with the Stranglers thing, like even I was playing Dark Matters a couple of weeks ago before the interviews came up, and I thought, wow, these guys have still got it, even despite the years, despite the changes. I mean,
Yeah.
still
Well,
make
that's
fantastic music.
yeah. Well, that's very very kind of you to say. I mean, with Norfolk Coast, it was my first one. Although I had been in the band for 4 years by the time it was released, and as Chet Black, God rest his soul, always used to say, you make your next record like it's your last one, because you don't know if you are going to make another one. It's the nature of the beast, and that record has got a lot of very happy memories for me, because by that time I was still married to my first wife. I was still living up in the northeast of England with my two little kids, and I flew to the West Country from Newcastle every week on a Monday, and I flew back on a Friday, and I did that for 8 months. And JJ and I and Dave that's what cemented us as the Three Musketeers. We spent a lot of time in that farmhouse in the West Country writing songs and just kind of being together, and doing what we did. And then Dark Matters, right after we'd done a British tour in 2019, we decided that because we played some new material, we were going to go in the studio and try and capture some of it, in whatever guise, and we did. And then we went back out on the road again for most of that year, and then the beginning of 2020, as we all know, the shit really hit the fan. And then in May 2020, horribly, we lost Dave, and we didn't think that we honestly, I mean, I can't believe that it's almost 3 years since he died. I don't know where the time has gone, Mark. I honestly don't. But JJ and myself, we weren't, to be honest, we weren't really sure if the Stranglers was going to continue after Dave. I mean, how do you replace somebody like him? It's nigh on impossible, or so we thought. And people talk about, I switch my phone off, and no, people don't switch their phones off these days. They put them on silent, but we switched our phones off. I couldn't take it. I had no contact with the outside world for a month. Because it was so unbelievably upsetting and a shock that anyway, once the dust had a little bit settled, we started revisiting what we'd recorded in 19, and we realized that there was some fantastic stuff there that Dave had done. And we just felt that if there wasn't going to be a band and if there weren't going to be any more gigs and if we couldn't find another guy to play keyboards, then the very least we could do would be to finish the album as a testament to him, as an epitaph almost. And so that's where our energies went. And arguably, we made the best Stranglers record in decades. And it went top 3 in the UK for the first time in 38 years. I think there was probably a certain amount of sentiment attached to that, obviously. But I've got it over here on my sound system, and when you're making a record, you get so sick of hearing it because you're recording it and you're appraising it and you're listening to it and you're adjusting and you're moving things and you're changing things. You don't listen to it for months afterwards. I listen to Dark Matters all the time. Because there's some great stuff on it, and as we were talking earlier, it evokes a lot of memories, and I think it does for a lot of people. We're very, very proud of that record, to be honest. Very proud of it.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and then of course, very soon after Dave, Jet left us as
well. Yeah. Well, Jet was. Jet was old, you know. I mean, if he was sitting here now looking at me, I can see him just looking at me with that look of his. He wouldn't mind anything, you know. That you know, he was old, and I was very pleased that I spoke to him about 3 weeks before he passed. And as we always did, we laughed. We were laughing our asses off for half an hour. But you could tell, you know, he was 84 and he was diminishing, and I hadn't physically seen him for about 3 years. But we spoke all the time, and every time I spoke to him, he just kept saying, "Don't get old, Baz. Don't get old. It fucking sucks getting old. It's horrible," you know. And he was as sharp as ever upstairs. I mean, he had all these marbles, but his body was just failing him, and he was just tired, you know. And I was the only member of the band that could get to his funeral just before the new year. And it was sad, but also it was celebratory. I've never been to a funeral that was so happy, if that makes any sense. Yeah. You know, because he lived 10 lifetimes, and he had a real glint in his eye right to the very end. And I mean, even the music that was selected was just funny. You know, George Melly and all this trad jazz and stuff. You know, no Stranglers at all. We all raised a glass in the church, which is something that I've never actually done before. And you know, I refuse to be sad about it. I've celebrated Jet's life, you know, and whenever I think about him, I smile. So that's what he would want. So, you know, I guess, you know, if he'd been a horrible, miserable, cantankerous old bastard, maybe the Stranglers wouldn't have lasted as long as they had, you know, without him at the helm as the voice of reason. You know, when I joined, he took me under his wing, and I never really came out from under it, you know. He was like a second dad to me. So there's that family thing again I mentioned.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, there's some big anniversaries as well for some of my favourite Stranglers albums this year. I mean, the band itself has been going for 49 years now, so that makes you just 1 year younger than Kiss. But we'll forget about
that. Please don't mention that again. That's just... Oh, dear me.
45th anniversary this year of Black and White, one of my favourites.
Yeah, still
a lot of tracks from that album in the set. Hopefully, you're still opening with Toiler on the Sea. And
I mean, we've tried many, many different things over the years. I don't think there's a finer set opener, frankly, at this stage of our lives than Toiler. We've done many different things. It's got to the point now where I think people genuinely, they always expect us to finish with No More Heroes, and they always expect us to start with Toiler. But us being us, just to piss everybody off, we might change that. You know, I don't know. We'll see. We're going to start talking about the set next week. Actually, we made a a pact today, him and I, that we get on the blower next. We'll get up. We'll do this. We'll Zoom and start making lists.
As long as you don't leave out like nice and sleazy and stuff like that.
Well, aye, there's some songs that you just have to play.
Even Tank as well, I think, from that one.
Well, yeah. I mean, what we try and do is not play too many songs from the same album, but I mean, we did go out and do Black and White in 2016 in its entirety in the UK, and what a blast that was. It was just the whole of the set was, the stage set was black and white and very monochrome. And then all of a sudden we just kicked into a 45 minutes of other stuff, and the stage lit up in color. And it was difficult though. It was a difficult tour to do that because some of those songs are not easy to play. And by the end of it, we were all kind of ready to go home, But yeah, it's the Black Jukebox, we call it. So there's always lots to choose from,
Oh, absolutely. Wonderful album. And another one of mine that's a little bit, I guess, less appreciated in the catalogue. Hits 40 this year, which is Feline. That got sort of mixed reviews.
Yeah. I mean, that was them being contrary. And they'd all just taken delivery of acoustic instruments, and they were trying to pare things back a little bit. I mean, on that, you've got Midnight Summer Dream, you've got European Female, which we always still do in Europe. They're very popular in kind of France, Benelux countries, Belgium, Holland, Germany. Ships That Pass in the Night, I always quite fancy doing, but for some reason, JJ is a bit reticent to do that. It gets used in this country quite a lot as background music on television programs and things. You hear that kind of jaunty little riff going on, and you think, bloody hell, why aren't we doing that? And you mentioned to him, and he goes, "Oh no, I don't know about that." But yeah, I mean, Black Feline was a one that kind of, I think that was more designed to draw some women in, get rid of the spotty, acne-ridden punk boys and try and get some quality female appreciation going on. I don't know. It's before my time.
Yeah, I mean, there was that sort of like feeling that, the Stranglers never wanted things to be comfortable for themselves. It was always that mixing things up, changing things around, and even though, like a lot of their contemporaries, there was a huge sort of like this following, it wasn't enough, and that's what I like about the Stranglers.
Yeah. I mean,
afraid.
Well, it's very easy to sit back and rest on your laurels when you've got what a lot of people would class as a winning formula. I mean, you've got that arpeggiated keyboard sound, you've got the growling bass, you've got an endless supply of riffs that you can play on the bass and the guitar. The drumming was very tight and metronomic, but very inventive. I mean, my favorite Stranglers album from those early days, arguably, is No More Heroes. The second one, there's just so much great stuff. Peasant in the Big Shitty, I just love it when we play that. So it would have been easy. You're exactly right, but no, the third album, they locked themselves away and were determined to make something a little bit more. Is it post-punk? I don't know. How do people describe these things? It was just the Stranglers. What came out was what they came up with. And then they did the same thing again for The Raven, which is a lot of people's favourites, the fourth album. And by that time, it was holy cow, there doesn't seem to be any ends to what this band can achieve. And then the really divisive album in the early days, I would have thought, would have been The Gospel, with the fifth one, which kind of had people going, what the fuck? I mean, I found that unlistenable for quite a few years, but, because it's just very clattery and kind of, I don't know, machine-like, more so than anything else, I think, up until that point.
Yeah.
But, we still find ourselves playing tracks off that album. We've done Two Sunspots, we've done Four Horsemen, we've done Thrown Away, I'm sure there's a couple of others that we've done as well that elude me, but they all get revisited, and you can see the looks on people's faces, in the crowd where they go, "Jesus Christ, I can't believe they're doing this one."
Yeah, yeah.
So it's great. It's a
Well,
never, it's a never ending source of entertainment for us actually picking the set. It's always great fun.
I can imagine it is. I mean, and you of course, I'm not sure how long we got, Baz. So they didn't give me a time. Are we good for a few more minutes?
Oh well, no, mate. I mean, it's 10 o'clock at night here, and I'm going to pour myself a glass of whiskey in a minute after. I mean, I think generally I think it starts to run out after 40 minutes, doesn't it? We're only 20 minutes in. Let's
Yeah,
just talk away, man. We got no
because
problem. There's no problem.
I've got a few I want to ask you. I mean, like personally,
Okay.
I always love finding out. We've got a radio show, so this is the bit we normally put on the radio. We play a
Okay.
few songs as well when we're advertising the tour. So, and the one question I always love asking people is when they knew when that moment was when they knew that being a musician was going to be their life. So some people have got a love of music, you've got a bit of an idea, but sometimes it's just that defining moment where when you look back, you think, yeah, that's actually the point when I knew that this was going to be.
Um, that's a brilliant question, and there are. You must excuse me for I will give you the potted answer because I could go on forever about that. Um, there's a few different things that immediately jump to mind. I remember seeing Status Quo on Top of the Pops in 1972 when I was 8, with long hair and Fender Telecasters, and it just mesmerized me. I can remember that like it was yesterday, and that's 50 years ago now.
Yeah.
Um, when I was 13, I delivered newspapers and milk in England, as a lot of kids did. I was a paper boy. And one of the guys on the round that I delivered to used to get a music paper called Sounds, which was a very popular music paper in the
Fantastic.
70s.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was on a Thursday. And I can even tell you his address, 46 Hurstwood Road, Sunderland. That's how I can remember. That's how. And I used to start me round on a Thursday 20 minutes early so that I could sit outside his house and read his paper before I put it through the letterbox. Um, and that's where I got all my information from about what was going on in this mythical place called London, where there was gigs going on with bands that were just exotic. And the Stranglers were on the front cover. Would you buy a used car from these men? And the Pistols. I never really got into the Clash. They were a bit, even to this day, I still find them a little bit manufactured. I don't know. I could get shot for saying that, but that was just me.
Yeah. Not by
But
me.
then, yeah, I joined my first proper band when I was, how old was I? I was 19. I was only a boy playing bass for a punk band called the Toy Dolls, and we went off around the world. I toured the United States before I was out of my teens, and that is the defining moment. I just remember thinking it doesn't get much better than that. I can distinctly remember calling my mom from a call box in Los Angeles on the corner of Melrose and somewhere else. The sun was beating down. There was girls walking past giving me the eye. I had a big head of hair and a waistline and a leather jacket. I looked a lot different than I do now. I must admit. And I just remember thinking it doesn't really get much better than this. And if I can do it, and so I came back to England, got gainful employment working in an office, which chewed my soul out from the inside. And as soon as I was able, I formed another band, and we got signed, and I went professional, and that was that. That was that. I've never, if I'm honest, Mark, to be perfectly honest, I've never really wanted to do anything other than be in a band since I was 13, 12, 13. And I realise that there are millions of people around the world who also feel like that. So I also realise that with, what talent I have, and I must have some because I'm still here, is an inordinate slice of luck. I'll take the luck. Everybody needs a bit of luck in their life. I'll ride along with that. So coupled with everything like that, I've been able to make a living at it and join the best band in the world, and here we still are. And you know, we're playing to massive packed audiences with people that can scarcely believe we're still alive. And the energy that we put off the stage for old fucks like us, you know, I mean, it takes it out of you though. You know, it does take it out of you. I won't pretend that it's, you know, that we're going back to the hotel with hookers and coke. You know, no way, man. It's a cup of tea and a shower and a cheese sandwich and maybe a bit of football before bed.
Well, that sounds all right. I mean, well,
Well,
yeah,
I can do.
go
Well,
for
at this
that.
my life, I'll take that. Aye, no bother.
Yeah, that's a brilliant answer. I think that's one of my favorite. We've been asking people that question for about 14 years, and I think that's one of my
Ah, well,
favorite.
I'm pleased. I'm pleased, and it's all true. You know, I can't. In actual fact, I can remember as an add-on to that. I can remember when I was 16. I failed all of my exams at school. I took a lot of sciences and things because my dad was a medical man, and I wanted to follow in his footsteps. And I failed them all because I just played guitar. And I had to go into the living room in the house and tell him that I'd failed all my exams. And he looked at me and he went, What are you going to do with your life? You know, what are you going to do with your life? And I said to him, I don't think the term rock star had been invented then. 19 when I was sick, it was 1980. I was 16. So I told him I wanted to be a pop star, and he just laughed his ass off right in my face, you know. And then I went in the house in the living room again 3 years later when I was 19 and told him I was going to the United States on tour, playing huge festivals and halls with a band. And he was behind me from then on until the day he died. So, you know, it's a life, you know, I like to play with other things. I mean, I'm doing another thing at the moment with some lads that we got together in lockdown. And I've been guesting on other people's things, and the music's my life, you know.
Wonderful. That's fantastic. If you could have been a fly on the wall for the creation of any great rock and roll album, any point in the history of music, what do you love to have actually seen being made?
Um, oh, bloody hell! How long have you got? Ziggy Stardust.
Yeah, wow.
Um, uh, Highway to Hell.
Yeah, fantastic.
Just a colossal AC/DC fan. Maybe actually the one before that, Power Age from
Yeah,
1978.
see,
That's my favorite. Yeah.
my mates go with Power Age. I'm firmly Highway to Hell. I think that's because that was the first one that I discovered.
I
Yeah,
um,
right.
and maybe
They're the best.
I would have liked. Yeah, I would have liked to have been in TW Studios in Fulham to see the Stranglers record Rattlesnake Vegas. And maybe the Pistols one as well. That's a really interesting question. I mean, there's so many classic albums. Maybe Harvest, Neil Young,
Oh, yeah.
Highway 61 revisited. I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
there's millions. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? There are millions,
Music from Big Pink. You know.
yeah, the band.
Um,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I love
fantastic.
that. Love them. Absolutely
Yeah,
love them. Yeah.
yeah, fantastic. And we always leave you with an easy one. What is the meaning of life?
uh, to be to be as fulfilled as you can be without shitting on everybody else. I think live and let live and be a fellow human. If you'd asked me that 30 years ago, I would have just said me. You know what I mean? Because,
Yeah,
but you know, with age comes buckets of wisdom. I think the meaning of life is just um, to love and be loved. There's nothing else really, you know.
yeah. Enjoy what you get out of it. Actually, so
Absolutely, yeah. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
I will say that with this fantastic career that I've been fortunate enough to have. The travel, although in the last few years, the travel's become a real pain in the ass with the way that the world is at the moment now. But traveling and seeing the world, I remember the first time I came to Australia, and it was only 2004 with the Stranglers first time, and I remember just in Japan, and the travel, it's to see how everybody else lives, the other side of the world. Be lucky enough to go there, experience it. Don't go to Spain and eat sausage and chips. Go to Spain and eat paella, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Just do the right thing. I don't know.
Absolutely.
To love and
You're
be
right.
loved and to take joy. That's the meaning of life.
Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful to speak to you.
That's a
And
pleasure. It's a
I
pleasure.
think